Hello, I'm Murray, and it is time for more Steel Legion goodness. I have collected the old metal Steel Legion for years, and through this channel I have been recreating them using the new plastics for the Cadians and Krieg, doing all sorts of conversions to realize them how I would always want to see them, as close to the art and the inspiration as possible. So join me as I do some fun conversions and create a command squad for my Steel Legion. This video is sponsored by Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus. Now, I've already created a few Steel Legion models on this channel, whether they're individual infantry units or catching a ride on the back of a tank. It's time to do something a little bit more fun and spicy and create the command squad. Conveniently, I already created Commander on this channel, and so he will be the one leading this command squad. The best of the best, the grizzled veterans that lead from the front, carrying the regimental standard and holding all sorts of cool gear, leaving me to create 4 individuals for this squad. The regimental banner bearer, the master vox, the medikit, and then the melee specialist. And to make things just a little bit extra, I have always professed a love for art in Warhammer. It is what drew me into the hobby, and I get that nice fuzzy good brain feel when I look at the art. And so I'm going to try and base this squad off one or more of the artworks from the old books. Through a series of tumultuous events, Games Workshop has already teased off an upcoming design for reintroducing Steel Legion into the world of Warhammer 40k. However, I like my way. Granted, we've only seen basically 2 T-poses, but I'm going to continue with exactly how I want to. And so while I continue to cut parts out of the sprue and assemble them in my mind, please sit back and enjoy just a little bit of lore. Armageddon's intensive industry has resulted in large regions of the planet being transformed into ash wastes, drenched in industrial pollution and corrosive toxins. The lungs of any human foolish enough to breathe this poisonous air soon rot away. Armageddon's massive population is crammed into huge hive cities, and from these overcrowded settlements, the planet's leaders raise a large number of Imperial Guard regiments. Many different types of regiments are raised from Armageddon's populace, but the most well-renowned are the Steel Legion mechanized infantry regiments. A life spent in Armageddon's hives having already turned every one of them into hardened and ruthless killers. Despite the war raging on their home planet, Steel Legion regiments remain active across the galaxy. The regimento's extensive experience fighting orcs has made them particularly sought after by commanders faced with these Xenos foes. Nothing gives the soldiers of Armageddon more satisfaction than slaying orcs. Alright, that's a bit of fun. Now, like I said, the art in Warhammer has inspired me to do lots and lots of my creations throughout the past, and none more so than Steel Legion. Imperial Guard is really intoxicating to a lot of players, I think, because you're not playing the superhumans, you're not playing the aliens, you're not on the side of the giant immortal demons that, you know, sneeze and cause avalanches of blood. You are the very frail but numerous human. And there's something really compelling in playing that out. And so all the Astra Militarum artwork is predominantly of plucky, angry little humans with a little laser gun. And then you have the Steel Legion who just add more and more tanks into the mix. And who in the hobby does not like that sort of thing? And so it's this battered but triumphant feeling that I want to create with this command squad. And some of the Steel Legion artwork is actually perfect. In fact, I like one of them so much that I'm going to try and replicate this in the squad. This is one of my favorite artworks in all of Warhammer, and it just depicts a few Steel Legionaries surviving, dragging themselves through the mire, holding aloft their trophies of war. And it has the added bonus that you can see there is, well, I mean, technically there's 4, but there are 3 main figures here. There is a regimental standard bearer, which is one of the command squad members. You have a soldier who's holding aloft the decapitated head of an orc, which screams me kind of like a close combat specialist. And then you have another legionnaire supporting a wounded man, which that could be a medic, which of course just leaves 1 slot over for the Master Vox caster. And so not only using this art just for inspiration, I want to see just how close to this original artwork I can get with my models. That is going to be my challenge. For my banner boy, I am using the commander's body from the sprue, considering that I have already made a commander, he exists. And so we have this really nice body that's just standing there with 1 foot up, kind of just like in the pose on the artwork. So I'm going to be taking that, and then I want a banner. I've got a few selections of banners, both from the Cadian sprue and from the Krieg stuff that I have, but it's just not the right pose or it doesn't have the right drapery in the banner. You know, the banner is basically just a big square of plastic. So I'm going to go and steal a Krieg Lancer from one of the Death Riders, and then I'm going to start making a custom banner out of green stuff. Basically rolling a nice narrow piece of green stuff into a really long rectangle, cutting it to shape. I'll gently apply this to the end of the lance, folding it in dramatic ribbons, and then making sure it sticks to the back of the soldier's arm and or back, as this will just provide a lot of support to the material. The head I'm also going to take from the Death Riders kit, as the artwork here really depicts this rather flared helm with the side flanges. I do like to use some of the Krieg helms for the officers and special characters within the Steel Legion. It really helps separate them from the rest of the line troopers. The medic is going to be fun because it actually features two bodies, the plucky soldier and the wounded man draped across his shoulders. To make this guy, I'm really just going to use the suggested medic body and then take a standard Cadian body from the infantry sprue. However, then we start getting a bit creative with the postures. I'm going to bend the legs of the wounded infantryman to give him a really lopsided pose and also to get his feet on the base. But then some interesting choices of arms, namely arms that usually would be holding a lot of really heavy support weapons, are now going to be dangling towards the ground, or draped across the other's shoulders. For a final touch, I'm going to use one of the Krieg arms that has the lasgun basically strapped to attention as he hefts it across the battlefield. However, the Krieg lasguns are designed a bit different, so I'm actually going to kit bash the lasgun itself. Call this pedantic, but I think it really adds something to it. For my combat soldier, I want to really make him kind of epic, and I'm going to have him equipped with a power fist, and that is what's going to be clutching the orc head. And to really sell the narrative here, his other arm is going to be equipped with a knife. A knife! And then the Voxcaster. He's going to be, pretty bog standard, I think, but I'm going to try something and actually change up the generic sprue here. So I'm going to hack apart his sort of front typewriter thing, and then I'll swap out his oversized Voxcaster for the Krieg one from their command kit. The final addition is going to be the head, which I'm going to take from the artillery sprue. Now this head is special because it has a couple of little earmuffs that kind of look like he's got headphones on, which really adds to the character of his listening for information and orders, relaying them both to his officer and the army at large. And by now you've probably noticed that a lot of these guys are actually missing their faces. I've literally just chopped them off. That's because it is time to start green stuffing all of the little special Steel Legion parts on. And in terms of the faces, that means gas masks. If you want a more in-depth tutorial on how I do all these parts, feel free to go check out my older videos where I show exactly how I make each of these parts. All right. We are done. The command squad is done. And you know how I said that the commander himself was already completed? He's been on the channel. He was on the channel a year ago. There's one problem with that. Whether it's through Games Workshop changing things or my own just failing to actually double check things, he's actually on the wrong size base. It's on a 25 instead of a 28mm base. And apparently size matters, particularly in games of measurement. So I'm gonna have to change that. It's time to give him a new base, which is a shame because I like that base. But now he gets a bigger one. You probably can't even tell the bloody difference from there. There really is something special about making your own characters and individual models within Warhammer. While I'll 3D print things time to time, particularly like parts and stuff, there's something just so enjoyable about creating things. This is my favorite part of the hobby right here. That's what keeps me coming back to Warhammer, and if you love this about the hobby as well, then you're going to love Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus. Is a fast-paced strategy game focusing around the epic heroes and characters within the world of Warhammer 40,000. I'm a big fan of Ahriman, the Sorcerer of the Thousand Suns, and as such I've spent a lot of time investing in him, but Commander Farsight of the Farsight Enclaves and the Tau is my true favorite. I've been grinding and trying to unlock him in his next appearance. And to celebrate Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 4, Tacticus is having a special limited time event. The next survival event is going to be based off the banned classic The Last Stand, which, as the name implies, sees you struggling to survive against waves upon waves of oncoming enemies. But to assist you in your battle for the first time, you get to try out the new Captain Cyrus of the Blood Ravens chapter. He will be free to play throughout this entire event and will help you accrue all the sweet loot. The event is live right now, so go check it out and use our code TTTXCyrus to get a bunch of rewards, including 50 Blackstone, 2,000 gold, and 10 shards of Celestine. But that's not all. Coming out real soon, you can join in on the next 2-week narrative campaign event featuring the noble struggle of the Necron against the inferior and fleshy Dark Angels, culminating in an epic battle against Lion L. Johnson himself. But if that isn't enough Necron for you, the next unlockable character to be released in Tacticus will be Thothmek the Chronomancer, an unparalleled technologist sorcerer. Basically, he can slow down time and do all sorts of crazy support stuff. So get ready for all of that to drop. Go check out all these cool events. The link is in the description. Use our code TTTXCyrus. I will personally be playing this because I played the ever-living crap out of The Last Stand. But in the meantime, back to the video. Now, the first trick to painting my Steel Legion is to establish all the base colors first. Since my guys are particularly earthy, I'm gonna start by painting the entire model with this brown. It's gonna be the base coat for all of the leathers, of which there's a lot, and also it'll be a nice foundation to paint all the fatigues. And as you can see, I immediately go against my own advice and start painting the banner almost to completion. But not exactly, because there's some really hard to reach parts of the banner visible from the front of the model that is behind everything else. You see, when you're painting miniatures, it's a lot easier to start at the stuff that's, the hardest to get to, and then work your way out into doing the outermost parts, whether it's like hats, gloves, whatever people are holding, that sort of thing. Now, in this artwork, the banner is this really rich velvety purple that moves to almost magenta highlights. So I'm gonna start blending that, and for a bit of added fun and depth, I'm gonna shade it with some really strong blues. And then I'm gonna start working on the clothes. And I go for a particularly saturated color. It makes sense to start here because I need to do a few coats. Once I'm happy with the coat of the ochre on all the clothes, I'm gonna give it a light wash of orange. This is gonna do all the shading of all the recesses and folds in the fabric and also really enrich and liven up the color. Then I'm gonna allow that to dry completely so I don't stick my bloody thumb in it as I start working on all the other parts. Now, the rest of the model is already conveniently brown. That's all the leathers and stuff. Then I start highlighting the leather with some really nice rich browns, moving into an almost skin color for the highlights, which, kind of makes sense for leather if you think about it. However, all the armor, the helmets and stuff, I'm going to give a little overbrush of a really dirty green. And then roughly go over all the metallic parts with the silver before giving all of the model that isn't the clothes a black wash. If you want to see a more in-depth tutorial on how I painted a lot of the standard stuff on these guys, go check out one of my older videos on the Steel Legion. This video, I'm going to be focusing mostly on some of the really nice details that I've made for the command squad. Because now, I get to work on all the fun detail parts. For the orc face, I give it a nice splash of red around all the ruddy parts, the nose and the eyes and the mouth, before starting to layer greens onto it. This is going to give a really nice earthy and natural feel to the orc, which is no longer with us. Or at least his body isn't. For a final effect to the orc, I apply blood for the blood god coming out of his mouth and the stump of his neck, as well as a little splash across the blade to get across the narrative that this guy has just decapitated the orc as a trophy. Then there's a few more interesting parts of cloth, the little Vox Reader typewriter, as well as the bundled rag or tourniquet that the medic is sort of staunching the wound of the injured soldier. However, he's not feeling quite medic-y enough. I think that we could go a little bit further and really make him stand out. So I'm going to start painting that sort of apothecary sigil on his shoulder, the caduceus. It's a little wonky, but I'm pretty happy with it. And since I'm already freehanding, I'm going to start painting a sigil on the shoulder pad of the standard bearer. I start with a circle, thinking that I'll do a sort of standard logo, but then I decide to just turn it into a skull, and then I'll put wings behind it because that's cool. Now it's time to paint the icons on their shoulders, and I want to just bring it up in a bit of conversation. Now, the Steel Legion have always used this lightning bolt sigil, but I've seen in the comments people informing me how let's say, a similar icon has been appropriated by people of dubious intellect and outlooks on the rest of the world. Many people have cautioned me against using such iconography, and I'm going to go ahead and keep using it. Namely because icons throughout history have had multiple meanings, multiple misuses and misappropriations for evil or ignorance. But to veer away and not use something is to give it power, honestly. And since Warhammer is such a stupidly, obscenely satire of brutal totalitarianism, to the point that it's kind of funny. It's funny to poke at. This is stupid, it's obvious. Humanity has degraded and belittled itself into literal nothing and decay because of these beliefs. And the point I'm making is that it's not that I'm unconcerned about the associations or connotations. It's more like I'm poking fun of it. If you, unfortunately, adhere to these beliefs and wear such icons on your chest and soul proudly in our world, in our reality, with misguided thoughts and unkindness, then I have nothing to say to you. Basically what I'm saying is that the humans in 40k are not the good guys. And basically I refuse to let bigots in our world dictate how I paint my little plastic soldiers. I understand Games Workshop is a big company and they want to distance themselves from that sort of thing. That's why they changed their icons. Fair play, but we're not going to cancel the Flash because he has a big lightning bolt on his chest either. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint the little Harry Potter lightning bolt on these guys, because they move fast and they have fast vehicles. However, to change the tone slightly, I do like the new icon that Games Workshop has come up with, that sort of artillery shell that forms the shape of an A. So I'm actually going to paint it on the banner here because I've got so much real estate to work with. Starting it with the phrase death, honor, and duty on the banner here. The sort of joke here being that, you know, death comes before those two in the world of the Imperium here. And then I'm going to paint the sigil on the back that says some nonsense about how everyone's numerous sacrifices will embetter the Imperium in some horrific manner. And then it turns out like that. Now, we're onto the home stretch and we can start painting the bases. And for that, I'm gonna do a bunch of dry brushing, painting all these rocks that I've already put on the bases, as well as painting the new base for my commander. I'm gonna use the exact same technique with the brown, green, and silvers that I did on the armor or the helmets and such. Then to top it off, I'm gonna start using the very aptly named Armageddon Dunes and Dust to coat the bases, not worrying if it spills onto the boots at all, because that's what dust and sand does. Then when it's fully dry, I'm gonna give it a light little wash, just to bring in a little bit of shading and tone, before finishing it off with a dry brush, and these are ready for reveal. It is time to thank our patrons. It is you that allow us to make such crazy projects, and you hear it a lot, but honestly, patrons are the lifeblood of a lot of channels on YouTube, and that has never been more true for Tabletop Time. Both the financial backing and the community that we create here has been fantastic and allow us to keep going and making cool stuff. Like our Sisters of the Old Blood back again, go check that out, haha! You enable all of this and we are truly indebted and thankful for your kindness. If you're interested in joining up, checking out what we're up to, and just having a chat with us, the links are in the description. Here we have it, my Steel Legion Command Squad. This is something that, I mean, officially, never existed. I've converted my own metal models in the past, but this is the first time I've had them, you know, in plastic to, you know, a fully realized vision. And I am so happy with how close to like the artwork they turned out. It's so cool, I'm so happy. And 11th edition is just around the corner, so we'll see how that goes. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you're new, go check out Tacticus and use our code TTTXCyrus to get a bunch of really cool rewards. Until then, I'm going to go and finish the rest of my models. I actually have a bunch of standard infantry that I haven't painted yet, so I will actually have more models. And eventually I might actually get a whole army. Turns out it takes a while to convert Imperial Guard, so who knew? But I'm enjoying the process all the way through. So, catch you next time.